Okay, so we're here with Timothy Heenan, who's the CEO of Mirasol Resources. We last chatted with Mirasol, or platform you guys, with the investment case production, I think about a year back now. So quite a lot has happened since then. Raised money now, very recently, and the drill rig is currently turning as of Sunday, Monday.
Early this week we got it installed and on site, and it's been turning for the last several days. Yeah.
So exciting time. So I think, Tim, let's just start very high level. What has happened in the last year since we last spoke with you publicly? If you just summarize at high level, and then we'll dig into things.
Yeah, specifically on the project, we've been actively working. Last season we worked up until May, and if you remember, last season was a little bit shorter because of weather conditions, but we did get a lot done last season. And then we've come in again the first part of this season to finish up the last remaining work to get ourselves up to drill stage. And as you just mentioned, Gordon, we were able to bring the drill in early this week. So we've done all the previous work to give us the best shot at the target. We're currently drilling on up in Sobek North in the southeast corner on the prospect we call Potro Southeast. And that's just across the border. Lunahuasi NGX is currently drilling at Lunahuasi, about 3 kilometers from us to the northeast. So they've got a big program going on, and we're just starting up with one rig and getting the first hole into this between now and the end of the year. So we'll be finished up this hole, hopefully before Christmas. That's the plan.
And Sobek Southeast was not a target that we even knew of last time we recorded an update. So that's something that has emerged in the ensuing or last exploration.
Yeah, it's emerged through the exploration that we did last season, and of course we just tightened it up the last few months of this season. But it did emerge last season. We got pulled into the El Potro area, obviously to the southeast corner of Sobek North by our stream sediment sampling surveys, and that's what brought us into the area. We had found some interesting mineralization, so we started to work up, do geophysics. We actually did a little bit of helicopter-based MT, which we'll see as we move through the presentation. That also tightened up the target for us up there. And we were at El Potro originally, and then we've ended up settling out in what we call Potro Southeast in the corner, which is a high magnetic anomaly with several geophysical, geochemical, and geological characteristics that makes it a very intriguing target.
Yes, but it's sort of telling that each season there's going to emerge new targets here. So it's
exactly targets that we're also at the same time we're drilling in Potro Southeast. We're doing the groundwork in Sobek Central from the vein zone moving south to prepare for a drill campaign there before the end of the season. That'll be next year, probably around March. So there's been lots of activity up at Potro Southeast and activity at the vein zone working south as well. So we're active kind of in two centers.
So I guess just some minor housekeeping, of course. The financing closed fairly recently, 5 million Canadian you took in. Who participated in the financing? And could you sort of clarify what does the shareholder structure, high level, look like now after this financing?
So the share structure in Treasury after the $5 million private placement, which just closed not too long ago, several weeks ago. So that's put $5 million in the Treasury. And if we look at the shares outstanding after that financing, we're about 81 million. So the market cap is around the $36 million Canadian. And now the directors and management have maintained their position, and we still sit at 26%. We've increased over time the institutional participation. So the institutions are up around 20% at the moment. And in this financing, Jupiter came in as well as Equinox Partners. The institution sit at 20% at the moment. High net worth is still at 14%, and the rest is retail. So we had good participation from our longstanding shareholders as well as our institutions. And so that we're happy with the result.
Excellent. And I guess just a quick refresh. What is the cash expected to sit at in total now? Because you had some obviously going into the financing. So what
Yeah,
cash would be at?
we've been working, so we're getting fairly low before we did the financing. So the cash position after the finance we were putting in at 5 million, and we've been spending. So we're probably down a little bit below that now, for sure. But we're well cashed up to carry out the expiration that we've set out to complete before the end of the year and into next season as well. Next first part of next year.
Just remind everyone about the warrants. Not in super high resolution, but just what's the quantum of warrants out, and what are their strike prices?
Okay, on this finance we did it at 45 cents, and the strike price for the warrants, if I'm not mistaken, is at 60. So that's, you see that the shares fully diluted, another 7 million in there. So that's mostly because of the warrants. So that was on this one. I think the strike price was 60.
And there are some,
and they're good, and they're over there. Yeah, they're 1 year warrants on this private placement.
Okay, there are essentially not too much warrant volume that could be expected to come in.
No, it's not a high volume of warrants.
Okay, good. So I think before we get into the details here of Sobek North, first of all, I just wanted to give your general thoughts on what has happened in the district, because in the last year since we spoke, major things has happened in the district, obviously with Philo transacting and so on, and all of the projects moving forward, and Assay just steaming ahead. Could you just give your high-level thoughts on the district as it is now, and what the implications are for Mirasol?
Yeah, obviously the big energizer for the district was the recent acquisition of Philo by Lundin and BHP. So obviously the district was certainly a happening place prior to that, and it's been re-energized obviously because of that. I think BHP won't be stopping just there. So obviously everybody in the district that is active, and obviously across at Lunahuasi, NGX has got 6 drills on site as we speak on a 40,000 meter program for this season, which is pretty exciting. And as I mentioned, that's just across the border from where we're drilling at Potro Southeast. So NGX is very active. Philo's very active, obviously. There's companies to the south, for example, Magotes has rolled up the hill again. They're going to be working on their prospect this year. So the area is extremely active. And if we go a little bit further north, there's activity in the other provinces as well, in the northern extensions. So obviously what could be the impact on Mirasol if we're successful on this current drill campaign which we're currently carrying out, I think there'll be a lot of activity at the door of Mirasol, interested in participating in the company, strategic investments. Who knows what that may draw towards us, but obviously with those big players now showing they've got a serious interest in the district, that's pretty attractive for us. And we've been talking, to several of the majors that are currently in and are interested in coming into the district. So, any success on our properties are going to bring us into a different realm.
Right. I mean, obviously, it becomes easier for other majors to move into a setting that will be a developed district due to the BHP's commitment and Lundin's Mining's direct commitment. So it becomes an easier sell at that point. Second move.
Definitely. Yeah. Certainly. The ball has started to roll, and I think it's just getting wound up.
And there's not too many candidates in the junior setting of quality, definitely not to look at. But good, Tim. So let's zoom into Sobek North, okay? So you gave a high level outline of what has happened in the last 12 months, but can you just summarize all of the data collection activities that has transpired sort of in the last 6 to 8 months that has led up to the election of the current drill hole?
Certainly.
Just outline that high level.
Okay, the slide I've currently got up shows on the left-hand side the Mirasol package and including the SQM Rosita package. And so this mag hadn't transpired recently, but it was the first thing we did in our property and in the district. We flew the district with Air Mag, and you can see I've encapsulated the information within our property boundaries for obvious reasons. But it was a really good first step to get us focused within our property boundaries where we wanted to start to prospect, where we wanted to look. You can see there's all kinds of contrasts in that mag data, highs, lows, and lineaments. So on this particular area where Potro is, we focused into the southeast corner of Potro North. We're actually drawn in there to what we called El Potro initially, and I'll go through the slides and show you why. But we've actually settled out on the right-hand side there. You can see the Potro Southeast, that cylindrical-looking magnetic anomaly. That's where we're currently drilling. But we got pulled into the southeast corner of Sobek North because of our stream sediment sampling survey. And you can see there's some good results in the stream sediments. So we went in there and followed that up. This is Bleg geochemical technology, and it brings you copper, silver, and gold. And of course, you get all the ICP elements with it as well. So you can see here, Sobek Potro southeast corner was high, and also down in Sobek Central, which we'll look at later, is also a high area. So actually, following up those stream sediments, we went up and were evaluating geologically the area, and we could see here there was some interesting younger cyanitic to monzonitic dikes that were coming up with coarse chalcopyrite, which is a copper sulfide, and nice coarse blebby molybdenite. And they were hosted in younger dikes cutting the older rocks. So obviously what's intriguing there is where are those dikes sourced from, and where's that copper and molybdenite coming from. And as we worked the area up, we actually worked up topography a little further, and we got into more gold and silver. So there was obviously some geochemical zonation between the increase in 400 meters. But where we've actually settled out in Potro Southeast is actually a copper moly geochemical anomaly. I think you maybe recall we did the aerial MT in this area. We did most of our MT over Sobek Central because this area wasn't really known, but we did have some helicopter time left to fly a small 13 square kilometer flight path across the Sobek southeast corner, and we detected a nice resistivity anomaly in the MT. On the left-hand side, you can kind of see a simplified version of that resistive anomaly. On the right-hand side, this is the longitudinal section going underneath that anomaly on surface. So we're looking at a 3D section underneath, and you can see a nice thumb-shaped resistivity anomaly, obviously hosted within a nice structural uplifted block there. On surface, we have some good gold and silver values, and that anomaly resided about 500 meters below the surface. So we went back into this area. So that was the MT we applied. Now we went in and did more geophysics in the area, and we got pulled down. What you see there is the Mirasol fault zone. We got pulled down that fault further to the southeast, where we had a nice strong RTP mag anomaly in our original air mag. So we brought in the IP crews. Mirasol has that in-house IP capability. We have all our in-house gear and dedicated geophysicists to process the information. So we did IP lines across the area. And you can see in the thick white line, that was the line we did actually last season. And the thinner lines are the lines we've come back with this season to tighten up the geophysics to finally spot the drill hole. So you can see over that nice mag anomaly, that nice cylindrical mag anomaly, you've got good moly and copper in rock chips. And also we did a systematic soil grid. So you can see outbound from that circular mag anomaly, geochemically things are fairly quiet, but when you get right over top of it, then the geochem picks up. So you got a nice coincident rock chip and soil grid copper and moly anomaly sitting right over that mag. And also the intersection of these two faults is very important in my mind. The Marincelles fault is a northwest trending fault, and right over top of the mag you've got an intersection with what we call the Ventana fault. It heads up northeast towards Linawasi, and it goes south a little bit further, and there's actually something called the Ventana porphyry situated along that structure. So these are two productive fault zones. So it was adding up to a pretty good looking target. Now we originally got a good chargeability anomaly outboard from our magnetic. So this is now looking down below that magnetic anomaly. That's RTP on the left side, and this is our magnetic susceptibility processing of that RTP, and that goes down into the third dimension. So you can see these magnetic susceptibility slices going down depth here, and you can see that nice cylindrical shaped anomaly going to depth. And that black line right through the magnetic anomaly on the right, that's actually the Ventana fault zone. So the cylindrical magnetic anomaly is coincident with that fault zone. It's coincident with the good geochem on surface. It looks like it's got some good depletion zones on either side of that magnetic anomaly, which usually reports to hydrothermal alteration and destroying the magnetite. So if you go back to the left-hand side here, that's the drill the drill hole that we spotted, and it has a southeast direction. And you can see on the right-hand side how it's going to penetrate that magnetic cylindrical anomaly. And that's about 700 meters wide. So it's a good-sized anomaly, and we'll probably be intersecting that down towards, after 350 meters, we'll be looking to get into that magnetic anomaly. But from our chargeability, so we have a coincident chargeability anomaly here. And this is very interesting as well. So on the left-hand side, this is actually analytical signal, which is similar to RTP, but it's a different processing method. Different methods are good for different applications. So we've just showed you the analytical signal on the left, and on the right, we've got the chargeability. And what we can see here principally is we've got a very strong chargeability anomaly residing at depth. Right below that magnetic susceptibility anomaly, which is outlined there in red. And we've got that good, strong, coincident copper geochemical anomaly on surface. And what stands out here is the very strong chargeability readings or values at depth. But up at the top here, you can see how the chargeability wraps itself around that structure and forms a bit of a bow in the chargeability readings. And actually, within that gap, you've got a nice conductivity anomaly, which you want to see when you're looking for porphyries, a conductivity anomaly. We're not sure what the basement is here, but it looks like it's going to stand out nicely from the basement. So you can see the hole is going to come down. It's going to penetrate our mag anomaly. It's going to penetrate that structure, the Ventana structure, and also get into that chargeability at depth. So this is adding up to be a very strong target. You've got the geochem you want to see. You've got that nice structural intersection that you want to see. You've got a fantastic looking cylindrical magnetic anomaly, and you've got a good chargeability anomaly that looks in the upper regions to form a halo on both sides of the magnetic anomaly, and at depth you're getting a nice strong chargeability anomaly. Chargeability generally maps out sulfides, so we're going to test several concepts with the same hole here. So that's basically the work we've done to date to get to where we are and where we've put the hole, and that hole is currently turning. So in the weeks to come, we'll see what all of these different geological and geochemical and geophysical responses actually mean. And this looks to us like a pretty good, strong porphyry target.
All of the data set seems to sort of align to point to a strong target. Is there anything that doesn't? or confounds you slightly at this stage, or does everything look fairly straight?
No, everything, surprisingly enough, usually it doesn't work this way, but everything seems to be falling in place. All the layers are piling up nicely on top of each other, all the information, the technical data, and pointing towards a very strong drill target.
If we dig into the faults first, so you mentioned the Ventana fault. It hosts another porphyry that's been discovered. Can you talk about that porphyry?
We don't know a lot about it. It's mapped. It's got a good magnetic response to the south of us. We can see that on the maps. It's got a very similar response to what we're drilling here on our mag response. And it's about within the same size. It's good. It's located along that fault. We don't know a lot about it. But it's interesting to see that there is more. We're not sure. I don't believe so. I think there's been surface work to date.
Okay, so calling it a productive fault, is that still fair to say? Because it's not.
I think there's alteration occurrences along both of them. Obviously, the Ventana fault going further to the northeast goes close by Lunahuasi, which is obviously an extremely large mineralized system. So it's good to see, active hydrothermal systems along the structure.
So the Marsalis, are you saying that the Marsalis fault goes essentially very close to where you have where they're drilling at Lunahuasi?
Yeah, it's kind of it's north of I believe it's north of Bonita, where they just they put out some results just recently from there. It's up in north of that area, between Lunahuasi and Bonita on the Argentine side of the border.
Right.
So it's a good structural intersection. You're always looking for these structural intersections for the emplacement, forming structural weakness for these hydrothermal bodies to come up into. So this is kind of a classic structural intersection to form these hydrothermal systems and injection of porphyry systems. And so it's a good it looks like a really good environment. Certainly worth a good drill test, without question.
With the information that you have, with all of this data that you have generated, what would you expect to see? When do you think you'll be in the mineralization? At what depth with the information you have now? Could there be any surprise? Obviously, you see soils at surface, but would you expect to intersect something fairly close to surface at something popolytic?
We're kind of predicting that we'll get into the mag anomaly around anywhere between after 250 meters. We'll be keeping our eyes open. It could be as much as 350 meters down hole to start to get into that magnetic anomaly, and that's the first place we want to see what's going on, what's causing that magnetic response. We're crossing our fingers that it's mineralization, potentially potassic core with the high magnetics. So we'll be keeping our eyes open after 300 meters, basically, to see what's coming up the hole.
And currently, if you just translate the dimensions that the geophysics is indicating, is the geophysics a fair assessor of approximate dimensions, would you say, or is it misstated?
Yes, I would. You see in the magnetics here, it's about 700 meters wide. If you go in the chargeability, it's a lot larger at depth. So there may be a suggestion here that the magnetic target is 1, but it sits above something potentially much larger at depth. So it's going to be important to see what is actually causing that chargeability response. Now,
so if we just speak about the hole, I mean, you've colored it for a certain depth now, like 700 meters. Obviously, it's dependent on what you're seeing once you expect.
It's going to be reactive. System. Yeah, it's going to be reactive. Yeah. So yeah, but we want to get down to the structure for sure. We want to get into the magnetic anomaly. We want to cut the structure, and obviously we can't leave the hole without testing that chargeability anomaly at depth. And if we're seeing good material, then we'll continue as deep as we can.
So vertical depth to the IP anomaly to depth. What's the vertical depth? Not just the depth from the hole.
I can see it's the bottom of the hole that's just plotted here is 800 meters. So if you go up, I would say maybe 550, 600 meters to get into the top of the vertical distance down to the chargeability.
And you're drilling into, you're intersecting a fault it could be complicated. We've seen some other programs. I mean, it can be troublesome. So you speak to the contractor. Have you worked with these people before? What would you expect to see?
Yeah, we've used this contractor several times on several properties. They do a heck of a good job. It's kind of almost a boutique drill company. It's a small company out of La Serena, and they give us tremendous attention. They're they have very qualified drillers. So we're gonna be working with them. They're gonna know when we're getting into a potentially complex zone like that structure. We don't know if that structure has been sealed by silicification or it's still open and friable and difficult to drill. We'll start to get a better idea as soon as when we get closer to it and what the size of it actually is, the thickness. But it's all new here because it's the first hole in this area. So it's all going to be, eyes open, looking at the core, and again, trying to map out what we hope or we expect to see as the hole continues.
And what are the contracted costs with this drill? I mean, how are you guys structuring that? Is it per meter or is it per? How is it structured?
Yeah, it's structured on as you go depths, the price per meter increases, and we may have to telescope down, as we continue, from H to N and telescope down. So with depth, the price increases per meter. I don't have the actual numbers here, but the prices are very reasonable. Apparently much less than across the border. They give us, as I said, they're kind of a boutique institute, and we're one of their better clients, so we get good prices for them.
But could you? I mean,
so we're hoping
average per meter cost. Please.
Direct drill costs would probably average around 300. We're looking at an all-in cost. We're hoping we come in at about 800. This is complicated drilling. It could come in a little more, but that's what we're kind of budgeting on. We usually budget 750 to 8. So if we can keep in that range, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Okay, and what would be the expected lab assaying time for this?
Well, the samples will be flowing into the lab continuously. I was in Chile a couple of weeks ago talking to the ALS lab, and they're hoping they can give us 3-week turnaround. That would be very good if they could. So anyway, somewhere between 3-week and a month turnaround on the samples. We obviously are close to copia post, so the samples come off site into the lab quickly and get into the processing line quickly in copia post. So, from the first samples going in, a month after we'd be getting our samples. So, I think we'll be in a position by the end of January, going into February, to have most of our samples in hand and compiled and interpreted. So, sometime early next year, probably into February, we'll probably be in a position to start having those results flow out to market.
So the advance rate, you've been drilling for a few days now. Obviously, they're getting their sort of stride here, but what would you expect to see?
Listen, the average in the district is around 25 meters. We've had experience with them here at the project in their first 2 holes several seasons ago that it was closer to 40. So if we can maintain 35 to 40 meters in a 24-hour period, we'll be doing pretty good. But we're planning here 25 days to get this hole done if things go reasonably well.
Right, and
we don't know here. Yeah, we don't know how deep we're going to have to go. So
exactly. So that's the second question here. Is what's the decision? What does that look like? I mean, what makes you continue the hole, and when does it become sort of ludicrous to continue? Because at a certain depth, it just becomes extremely slow and very.
Yeah, the current contract that we have contemplates up to a maximum of 1,000 meters.
Okay.
because of the angle of the hole, because of the drill that's on site, which, that's a 1,000-meter hole. That's a pretty deep hole for the first hole in the system.
So if that were to happen, obviously you do that because you're clearly in mineralization. You continue to go down 1,000 meters. But if you were to go a full 1,000, how long would you think that would take? You're saying 24 for this hole you're showing on the screen here, 750, 800 meters. But if you continue another 150 or 200 meters, would that be an extra 10 days?
Yeah, because once you're down at those depths, you're moving pretty slow. So you'd probably be under
meters per day or 15.
Yeah, 15, 20 on a very good day. So another 200 meters. You're looking at 10 days anyway, probably a little bit more.
Yeah,
but as I said, I think you're seeing that it's gonna be reactive, and we'll just hopefully we have justification to keep it going.
So, without any information from this hole, how would you design the second hole? It's sort of a silly question, I guess, but do you already have a place in mind on how you would try and target the other hole? Because obviously one hole can sort of inform a second hole, but not necessarily.
I guess just simply spoken here on this hole that you see on the screen, if that hole is successful and we're seeing something down in the chargeability area that's of interest, then you'd back up further behind that hole and hit that chargeability maybe a little deeper down the structure and a little deeper into the chargeability zone.
So you would move topographically a bit lower, so it's closer to get to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, move down topography and coming back a little bit to the left there to get deeper into that chargeability and deeper down in the structure. So it's going to, again, completely reactive, and there could be justification of moving higher up as well. Testing between where this hole is and surface along that structure, where the chargeability lines are, mimicking the structure. Also, you'd probably want to come along to the other side and drill a scissor down. And then obviously moving in all directions, stepping out if you do have intersections that justify step outs.
So along these two faults, obviously both of them could have been sort of controlling in the positioning of the porphyry, but would you expect this to be a very cylindrical thing, or could there be more of a strike to it potentially along the fault as well?
If there's structurally controlled mineralization, obviously along the trends of the fault would be an obvious place to follow out. What we're thinking here at the intersection is probably the best place for the best formation of mineralization, but obviously going along strike on those faults in all four directions really maybe what we do in the future.
Right. So to summarize, we would expect to have probably base case have completion of this hole mid December, or sort of the
we want to make basically what we've planned here. We want to be coming off the hill on the 22nd of December, and we're sitting on the 28th of November here. So that could be the timeline. We drill hard up until the end of this year, and the end of this year is usually in Chile, 22nd of December. But I think we'll be able to get it done in that time frame.
So then the question becomes, obviously you have this is Potro Southeast, you have El Potro as well, which was the initial target, deeper laying, and this is why I decided to go deeper laying, and this target team has more coinciding sort of baseline data, makes it a stronger target, which is why
it does. It looks like a more attractive target to us. It's got all the characteristics. It's got that nice propylitic alteration zone high up in the system in the andesites. It's got a lot of tick marks in its favor. So it was the target of choice. Obviously, that other target will be drilled at some time. It's a quality target as well. This looks more like a copper moly porphyry target, whereas the other one could be more high sulfidation, maybe a hydrothermal breccia, an altered intrusion. I guess we'll see when we put a hole into it. But this one really stands out as a strong copper moly porphyry target.
So the question becomes here. So you wrap the first hole, which is the only thing you have time for before year end, and then you get that data back. Obviously, you're gonna PXRF it. You're gonna know if it's good. Like you're gonna know.
Yeah, we do ASD alteration analysis and PXRF readings as the core comes out of the hole. So we're going to be able to, map out our alteration. Is it getting stronger and hotter as we go down hole, which is always good information. And of course, the PXRF values are key. And, I think here, just straight visual is going to be probably enough to guide us. But obviously with the PXRF and the ASD readings, it just solidifies the analysis in the short term.
The question is the following. So you do that, that going into early next year. What happens then? I mean, if it's mineralized, you're going to stay there drilling, obviously. And then there's a range of outcomes. It could be very, very good. It could re-rate the share price. Then you could potentially get in some more funds and just have the drill continue being there and bring in a second rig to go to VN zone or go to El Potro as well. But
yeah, that would certainly
be your thinking on the permutations. What's the base case for you?
Yeah, obviously that's a very interesting and attractive outcome if we did have sufficient success on this hole that has a pretty important impact on the share price, raise money at a higher price and a large raising, because obviously these systems, we're just kind of tickling the surface at the moment on these, but they're going to require much larger budgets and a lot of drilling. So moving forward, we're going to need large budgets. We're probably thinking along the lines of a strategic partner coming in to help us out to attend to those high budgets moving forward. So success on this hole is gonna change the shape of the landscape of what we can do and how we do move forward.
Point being, you have a budget to do more than one hole. So if you're into mineralization here, there's a range of sort of decisions to make. Do you do another hole to start off next year at the same target, or because you're only going to bring in one rig as the base case? So could you just outline what the next hole is going to be?
If we're successful on this hole, and we're seeing referring to good mineralization, I think it would be hard not to come back and drill more holes on this immediately. As we're working up in Sobek Central. To prepare those drill holes for March 1st. And, conceptually, in a best world, you could visualize, being able to drill at both targets at the same time, as if success continues to bring in good results here.
So in one permutation, let's say that you don't hit and what you expected at this target for some reason. It seems unlikely with all the data, but it's possible. Do you then take the rig and move it to El Potro to do a hole there before, or do you just wait and go to V and so on?
I think the strongest targets in order of ranking. I think the southern part, what we call Sobek 46 south of the vein zone, is shaping up to be an extremely attractive target. So I think I would probably go south and do the holes we planned down there before we came up and did El Potro.
Okay.
So I think the geological conditions are looking extremely attractive at Sobek 46 South. So like to get a hole in there before the end of the season.
And let's get to that imminently here. But El Potro, has there been any new information that you can share on the development of that target, or does it look essentially the same as it did?
Basically, we haven't done too much more because we got attracted to this target here, and most of our work has been focused on Potro Southeast here. So the El Potro target, the resistivity anomaly, is basically what it was when we first talked about it.
Right. Okay, so let's head over to South 46 and take a look at that, because there you've done a lot of work that's grown, sort of become a much larger idea. So if you just outline what has been done since last we spoke, which was basically a year ago, and what your current thinking on this system is.
Yeah, let's localize ourselves here. Now we're looking down further south, where the yellow arrow is, to the southern part of our Sobek Central. property, and directly to the south of that resides one of the Rosita properties that we brought in with our SQM option agreement. And then we also staked a brand new property called Sobek 46 South. Now that was a major home run because it was a very attractive property that accidentally came open due to an error on the part of the previous owner, and we snagged it immediately. And thank goodness for that, because it's starting to turn into a very, very strong target. So you can see at the bottom on the right-hand side there, the arrow comes from vein zone down to Sobek 46. And what's interesting here is we're starting to see, considerable scale. That's 3 kilometers from the vein zone down to Sobek 46. And there's several interesting targets along that entire trend until you get down to the big mag anomaly at the southern part of Sobek 46. And also, if you can see on the east side of Rosita 40, there's a nice anomaly on that eastern edge as well, which is, we'll see a little further on here how it relates to the other anomalies. But we got the road up. You remember, we were originally up at the vein zone on horseback and walking up with backpacks and prospecting prior to the existence of this road you see zigzagging up the hill on the picture there. And, in the early days of prospecting, we were pulling off pretty good results. And then, the best results we actually got were, 5 grams of gold and 0.22% copper from these typical, what we call M veins. They're kind of typical Maricunga porphyry sheeted veins, and they're sheeted quartz magnetite. You can see there's some free gold in the microscopic work in one of those veins with the quartz and magnetite. So they're nice sheeted vein zones. So that was looking very good. So now we've been able to get the crews up there by vehicle. We're up there. We've done geophysics across the vein zone, and we're moving south from there. We originally thought that would be our primary drill target, but as we continued to move, we were getting intriguing results. And how this all started, this is our early aerial MT, and this is actually the resistivity plot of that MT information. And you can see what kind of pops out to the viewer is these green, egg-shaped MT anomalies. They're very elliptical in character and geometry. And I think what those are mapping out is productive intrusive centers at depth. And I think those are the motors of the systems that are hydrothermically forming along their edges and around them. That's the motors that are driving these hydrothermal systems, like the vein zone, and like the vein zone south, and down here to Sobek 46 South, and even across to Rosita. And this is the MT resistivity, but you'll see as we move through the presentation, under a lot of these, we've actually got a conductive MT anomaly at depth. So you can see here that the north-south trend of these anomalies from the vein zone working south to Sobek 46. I mentioned we went up and did geophysics at the vein zone. So this is our in-house capabilities that Mirasol has. We have in-house mag and in-house IP. So we throw a lot of geophysics at our properties. This is a good example. So we put a line right across the vein zone. You can see the location of the 2 lines at vein zone. I've just got one of those lines on the right-hand side here. But you can see it's an attractive looking, at the top, it's a resistivity anomaly. So you can see some sort of a cap, about 100-meter thick cap, which could be lithocap potentially. At about 350 meters, you're right in the middle of a very, very strong resistor. It's over 30,000 ohm meters in the resistivity readings, and you can see it's clearly structurally controlled. Now that pink line that goes right across the arrow there is actually the trace of the chargeability anomaly down here at the bottom. So if we move down to that chargeability anomaly, you can see it basically has no texture. It kind of obliterates everything. And it looks to me like the top of a sulfide halo. As we mentioned up in Potro, you've got the sulfide halos. They are a shell generally over these porphyry systems. So this looks like we're just potentially getting to the top of the sulfide halo over a deeper seated potential mineralized porphyry system. So that was the vein zone, and that remains a very valid target. But as we continue a little bit further south and getting onto the west side of our Rosita property, which is in this area here, the MT line, in this case, MT line 1700, you can see where it cuts across the Rosita claim and a bit of the Sobek Central claim as well. And underneath that line in the longitudinal section, you see this beautiful cylindrically shaped conductive MT anomaly. Looks like it's blanketed nicely by that blue alteration blanket. It's clearly, again, in a structural setting here, structural basin. It sits below some pretty good geochemical results on surface, and that resides at about, I think it's about 500 meters below the surface. So that's an attractive target that we haven't done much work on apart from just analyzing the line. Now, if you look on the left here again, you can see our nice big MT susceptibility anomaly down at Sobek 46 South. What's really intriguing here is these tourmaline breccias that I've mapped out in black here. Now, in a lot of the Andean porphyries, you do have these tourmaline breccias that come off the tops of these concealed porphyries at depth and come to surface. Lots of times they're mineralized, sometimes they're not, but that's not always negative. In this case, they are mineralized. So it's good to see these tourmaline breccias. It's kind of the volatiles escaping from the top of the porphyry system and kind of a degassing event and coming to surface. So it's good to see those. I think it's really important to have those tourmaline breccias. And you can see the results here of, we started the soil grid. So this is the initial soil grid. And you can see there was a nice strong geochemical anomaly developing on a systematic grid pattern right on top of that magnetic susceptibility anomaly. As we moved forward and started to grow that soil grid, and we're still working on that as we speak, and as we speak today, people are doing the infill on this grid, but you can see that anomaly is staying nice and coherent. It's strong, and it's maintaining itself right over top of the mag and in and around those tourmaline breccias. Now, it doesn't only come with copper, it also comes in with gold and moly, which is very encouraging when you're looking for these Andean porphyry systems. So that's really developing into a nice, strong anomaly, and we're kind of pointing towards that's our principal drill target for come 1st of March of early next year. If we go on to the line, the MT line that goes right across that anomaly and clips the west side of our Rosita anomaly up in the Rosita claim, this is actually MT line 1810. So on the right-hand side, that's our longitudinal section going right through and below that section line. And what's interesting to me here, we've got a coincident anomaly on both. This is the Sobek 46 South, which is that one. And this response over here is the Rosita, which is this one up here. So interesting, these two occur, they appear to occur at exactly the same topographic elevation. What we can see here, this one's under the hill. That's the hill, and we come down topography. Rosita almost breaches the surface. This one's much deeper under. It's probably 800 meters under surface. This is where the tourmaline breccias would be residing. So you can see we've got a coincident anomaly here. Those stripes, the stripe pattern is actually our mag susceptibility depth slices going down. And behind that, you can see the red-orange coloration. That's the actual MT-sourced conductivity anomaly. So you got a nice coincident anomaly there. So when we get over here, bringing our IP crews down to do the IP, we're going to be mapping in this area, geophysically speaking, to see if we can get a grip on the structure above this anomaly. You saw the road on that previous picture that zigzagged up the hill. It's got itself to here now. The bulldozer is currently...
Tim, we cannot see your mouse, so you need to explain.
Okay. Yeah, from the vein zone, that's as far as the road exists at the moment. But the bulldozer is on site at the vein zone, starting to push that road down into the Sobek 46 area. That's about 2.5 kilometers to get down there. Obviously, that's going to help facilitate our ground-based geophysics. It's obviously going to help assist our soil sampling crews. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the drill road that brings the drill into our Sobek 46 South target come February. So we're going to be working this area up. There's been lots of work done, as you can see. There's still lots more work to be done. They're currently working on it as we speak. So we've got December, January, and February to finish our ground-based exploration, as I just mentioned, with the geophysics, geochemistry. And we're going to be ready to pop some holes in this area come the 1st of March. So that Sobek 46 South is really shaping up to be, in my mind, a spectacular target.
So, Tim, I guess the obvious thing with the information that we have now is to drill Rosita 40 East because it looks to be very close to surface in comparison to Sobek 46.
Yeah,
my
argument there at the moment, there's been a lot less. There's been almost no work done on that. It's just been some prospecting samples to date. Topographically, it's a little more. It's actually much more challenging. It's a pretty steep area there, so we're going to have to put some pretty complicated roads to zigzag up to that. We haven't seen the tourmaline breccias on that one yet, and the tourmaline breccias to me are key in making this the strong target, because that's a good geological indicator that the system is active. Obviously, Rosita will get more work, but we have to work it up on surface. We got to get the geophysical crews in there. There is no road in there at the moment. The road going into Sobek 46 South is much easier because we've done all the zigzagging to get up to the top of the vein zone, and now it's reasonably flat to push that road into Sobek 46. So that's going to go in there fairly quickly. So Rosita needs more work. It's a little more complex. So, and I think at the moment, geologically speaking, Sobek 46 South is good. Good strong soil anomaly. We do have rock chips in the tourmaline breccia that are anomalous, and there's lots of copper colors in that breccia, and there's rock chip samples. So it's that's shaping up to be a really strong target. And Rosita, in my mind, will come in after.
But how do you explain that? I mean, so if we translate this to investors, because if you have a 500-meter cover, and if that's sterile, it becomes difficult to make that economic. You need, and the market will force you to put very good results to be convinced by that. You need fairly good results in just a few holes to get a re-rate. So the upper level expressions, are you expecting to see?
Yeah.
Explain what the tourmaline breccias, will they contain mineralization or what?
Yeah, no, there's tourmaline breccias globally above porphyry systems contribute significantly to the copper tenure of these mineralized systems. So tourmaline breccias do contribute significantly. So that's a target on its own, and there's lots of examples in Chile where people are actually mining the tourmaline breccia and haven't even got close to the porphyry. So that,
you talk about the dimensions that you're seeing on surface, or indications of the meaningfulness of the tourmaline breccias. If that's a stand, obviously you want to intersect those going down to porphyry.
I seriously believe that our first hole will go through the breccias as it goes down to depth to test the deeper target. And potentially here, those I suspect at this moment that that's actually our porphyry target, but what could reside between the top of that and surface is yet to be seen. There could be interesting mineralized occurrences above that porphyry easily.
Okay, so can you just unwrap that a little bit? I mean, what could you see?
Yeah,
could you give some
we've seen the evidence of the tourmaline breccias. You could have, that's a large target at depth. That's 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer across. So you could have smaller mineralized porphyry bodies coming off as fingers from the top of that. That's the area where all the tourmaline breccias are in. So when we map that out geophysically with our on-ground IP, hopefully we can start to detect the important structures that are obviously going to be important targets earlier on in testing this target in the near surface while we're getting to the deeper target.
So can you explain what a good robust tourmaline breccia could look like in sort of metrics, dimensions, and average grades?
Yeah, and these things usually, it's very common that on surface they can be small, and it's very common they're inverted cones. So when they're actually getting closer to the top of their source, they can be much, much larger and be significant volumes of material. and they also is very, very common to, the mineralizing values, copper in the, several percent is not uncommon in these breccias as well. Okay. So that's, in my mind, it's probably a target on its own. But I think,
and on surface
of the big prize,
yeah. So on the surface, what sort of expression have you seen? If you just explain the significance, is it very small? Is it translated?
No, this is a large area of phyllic alteration. Now, phyllic alteration is usually quartz, sericite, pyrite, and that again generally forms part of the halo of these systems. So we're seeing a good strong alteration system on surface, and that alteration has been cut by these tourmaline breccias. So, that's all fitting together. The phyllic alteration is the outer parts, in a lot of cases, of these productive porphyry systems. So you got to get through
You guys are doing a soil grid. What sort of spacing are you doing, hoping to cover at Sobek 46 in the coming months?
Actually, I was quite pleased to see the recent advance in it's filling in quickly. I think the original lines are 100 by 100 meter spacings and 50 meter samples. So where we get the anomalies, we'll always see infill and tighten up, and help that, the surface geochemistry to help focus us where we want to go with both the geophysics, obviously, and then in the upcoming drill campaign. But there's lots of work to be done. It's looking really good at the moment. It's early stage, but it looks really good. There's work to be done, and that's moving forward quite aggressively. So looking forward to getting all that information in hand and being able to compile the geochem with the geophysics and the magnetics, and put that hole in the best spot possible to see what this system represents.
So data collection, geophysics, and soils will be done, I guess, mid-February or late February.
Yeah, we're collecting as we speak. We're in November. We're collecting down there as we speak. We haven't started the geophysics yet, but the geophysical crews are again mobilizing here in a week's time to start the geophysics. The soil crews have been working probably for more than 2 weeks now. So that grid's filling in quite nicely. And of course, the road is starting to get pushed in. And of course, that road is going to act as a good, a trench to better expose the geology on the way down there. So it's all moving forward.
Right. But I mean, I'm trying to figure out. You're saying at the start of March, like very beginning of March, then you would expect to mobilize the.
Our target date we're looking at, hopefully the first of March as our theoretical startup date for drilling. So that gives us at least good 3 weeks here in December, all of January, a little bit into February to be able to get the results back in for the end of February. We do PXRF on all the soils as well before we send them out to the labs. We have a pretty good idea on the extent of the anomaly, and the ASD work as well. So I think if everything moves ahead accordingly and we can stick to our timeline, we should be in a position to be able to drag the drill up the hill on the 1st of March.
Right. So if we just summarize what expected spend would be, because you're doing this hole now, that's going to be completed before year end, and then you're going to probably do another hole at Sobek North, hopefully at the same target, right? And in the same time period, you're collecting all of this baseline data. So those activities up to getting drill ready at VN zone, South 46 and so on, what will that cost? All the activities up until that sort of first of March milestone.
Yeah, we had our budget to the end of the year with the 4 million to get and left over for next season. So we're currently in the treasury. If things continue on the timeline spend, we have enough money to get the drilling done at Potro southeast and move into all this exploration campaign going south to be able to prepare for drilling at the 1st of March. So we'll burn through the money we have to get all that done, and we'll obviously to drill. We'll need to either, depending on what happens at Potro Southeast, where we talked about those options, the strategic partner, financing at a higher price. Those are all going to be, options we're analyzing as we continue moving forward to get into Sobek 46 South.
It's not clear to me exactly what you're saying now. So you're saying that going into next year, you're going to have 4 million Canadian. And then by March 1st, you will need to refinance to complete the whole set.
Or before, it depends how things, as I mentioned, so if we can finance it early next year and at a higher share price because of, the results.
That's not the question. Obviously these are permutations, but I'm literally only inquiring about spend. So what's the spend? Doing probably 2 holes at El Potro or Sobek in Sobek North, however you choose to allocate them between the 2 targets, and then collecting all of the baseline data to get the drill ready at the end zone targets.
Yeah, if we did this holds strictly drilling, you're probably looking at 800,000. So we did another hole, another 800,000 down here in Sobek South, Sobek 46 South. You're looking at holes that are going to be similar depth to what we may be drilling here at. So that's those 3 holes adding up is about 2.5 million, and the exploration to get there, the groundwork is probably another 300,000. So, including this, we put 1.2 into this program to be able to get the drill on site at Potro Southeast with the work prior, and also the work going forward. I think the overall budget to get there was around the 2 million to have all the surface work done. And then those holes down there are obviously, again, $800,000 holes. Okay, and of course, that with the southern holes, obviously that's a much bigger target, kilometer by kilometer here. But I think we will narrow it down to where we actually want to drill. Focusing in on those breccias.
So let's just see if I got this right. 800,000 per hole at Sobek North approximately. So that's going to be 1.5 million or a little bit more. And at the same time, you're spending another, say, 300,000-400,000 at generating baseline data at B and so on. So that will you'll probably spend 2.5 million or something like this. But so by the 1st of March, you would have 2 million CAD left, or 2.5, or somewhere around there.
Probably a little bit less with the work we've been doing, burning through at Sobek. I think it'd be a little bit less than 2. Hopefully, when we get there, at that time there is funds to be able to start the drill program. But it's going to be, again, kind of reactive with how this program goes at Potro Southeast, what the spend actually turns out to be, and the exploration work going forward. So If we have funds in the treasury to actually drill the first hole at Sobek 46, I think that'll be a pretty darn good outcome. But I suspect we'll have to raise to drill the holes down at Sobek 46.
You'll probably have the funds, but obviously you don't want to start drilling a hole and then you're going to have 200,000-300,000.
Yeah, and also we all the there's other commitments in the company just besides the outright exploration. There's got to keep the corporate and the bin going, and got to keep the properties up to date. And so, all the funds we have in the treasury at the moment are not exclusively, obviously, for exploration, but 80% of it is.
Okay, so that's very good. I think we've covered everything quite well now. What we should ask is just a wider portfolio. So obviously you guys have been doing a lot of work. You've been engaging with majors and other vendors and so on, and counterparties to try and unlock value in the wider portfolio as you focus on Sobek. Could you outline how that's been going, what the climate is out there, or what your view on the climate is right now, the interest, and what potential you could see for some transactions taking place in the next
and this goes back to our conversation of what financial position will be in come 1st of March, And a lot of it depends on this pipeline of opportunities and unlocking that value from the portfolio, because I think you know, Gordon, that the Mirasol's portfolio is fairly robust. So we have a bunch of, all of our, for the most part, all of our energy and funds are going into Sobek. That's our flagship property. And in the background, one of the key properties we're currently talking about an outright sale, and it's getting a lot of interest. Obviously, one, because it's in Argentina, and two, silver's picked up flavor again. So this is our Virginia silver deposit, and it's actually up for an outright sale at the moment. Now, we're doing metallurgy in the background, which could, and we should have the results for that coming into February, hopefully, or maybe sooner. That could double the resource automatically, because there's a vein where the resource is, and there's a halo where we've got lower grade mineralization. Recoveries aren't just quite adequate yet, and the metallurgy could put that up, and that'll increase the value of Virginia, maybe even 100%. But anyways, Virginia is up for sale, and if it goes, it's going to be a pretty strong financial income for Mirasol. So we'll see how that goes. But there's at the moment we have five companies on the list that we're currently discussing things with at Virginia, as well as some of the other Santa Cruz properties. There's lots of interest at the moment in Santa Cruz for the gold and silver portfolio. Another one that probably, it could come in the relatively short term, but I don't think we're talking before 12 months. But at the Claudio project, we have Anglo Gold Ashanti drilling our Claudia property. Claudia is the property directly south of the Cerro Vanguardia mine of Anglo Gold Ashanti. It's one of their most profitable mines in the world. And the veins from Cerro Vanguardia come onto our Claudia property. They're currently drilling, and things are going very well. And the deal there is very simple. They had to drill 12,500 meters to get 100% of the property, leaving us with a 2% royalty. Now, what's interesting here is if they find pods of 50 or 100 or 200,000 ounces, that's all going to the mill, because the mill's only 10 kilometers away, 11 kilometers away. Whereas any other company, if they found 50 or 100 and even up to 500,000, is probably going to stay in the ground. But here, no, it's going to go to the mill, and it's going to cause cash flow for Mirasol. We've also received a lot of interest in our San Juan property, our copper portfolio in San Juan province. And one that stands out that's really received a lot of interest recently is called Tefnut, which is a copper porphyry. At our Nord property in Chile, we're discussing an outright sale of a part of it to a company that's putting a mine into production, and our Nord property sits right on the edge of their property, and they want to take that out and buy a part of the property and option up the other. So that's in the pipeline. And then, of course, up here at El Tesoro and Coronation, those are really, really high potential, high sulfidation epithermal gold, silver, and porphyry potential. And if you recall, not too long ago, First Quantum released the discovery of their new Vendaval deposit. Or it's not a deposit yet, but it's a new discovery, a porphyry discovery that's just up the road from Taka, resides right on the Argentine border. And we're at Coronation, just on the other side of the border in Chile. So Coronation does host a part of that new discovery. We have no drilling on Coronation, but what we have sticking out of the ground, they have on the Argentine side in their drill holes. So there's an enormous amount of interest in Coronation. So there's lots in the background here that could turn into alternative financing options for us. And we're being very, very aggressive at the moment on our business development initiatives. And I didn't mention here either, but there's a lot of we mentioned it earlier on about Mendoza and the activity here in Mendoza. And obviously, Mirasol does have some properties in Mendoza that are being highly sought after at the moment as well. So there's lots of optionality. There's lots of optionality in the portfolio that could help us out. It'd be a great out if we could sell our Virginia silver deposit in Santa Cruz, because in our current share price, we get no value for that. Take that sale, take those funds, bring them up to the High Cordillera in Sobek, and continue to move that project forward with the funds we receive from the sale. That would be a really good way to proceed.
Okay, I mean, there's a bunch of opportunities here, but one sort of follow-up question is with that royalty. So when is it expected to be converted to a 2% NSR next to cloud?
They're going to be, I think they're going to be finished their 12,500 meters here very, very shortly. I wouldn't be surprised if they get it across the line within the first 6 months of next year. We're about to, we're going to hopefully receive a data dump here shortly, but they're very happy with the way things are going, and they're considering the Claudia property to the south of their operations, part of the longevity of their mine to the north.
So I mean, it doesn't really make sense for Mirasol to sit with that 2% NSR. I mean, at that point, you sell that. It's an NSR.
Yeah. But I'm saying that 2% it could turn into cash flow, in a reasonably near future, but it also would be very sellable.
Exactly, and that makes a good ask to sell to royalty company. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and
there is interest. There is interest in that royalty from royalty companies as we speak.
Okay, but so I mean, you're saying you have a bunch of interest, but let's converted interest to some cash for Sobek here. So, if we, in that regard, what sort of probability would you assign to that being something that's executable in Q1? I mean, that one of these things bringing cash on the corporate level to deploy at Sobek.
I think the one that would probably move forward here the quickest is maybe the Nord asset in northern Chile. I think that could once we get negotiations over with, that could happen very quickly. But as I said, I don't think Virginia, it could not be that far behind. I could see, foreseeably within the first half of 2025 moving towards a potential sale of that, if not sooner, because there is a lot of interest.
Yeah. And Virginia is obviously a bigger ticket item. We're speaking multi-million-dollar.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's fair to say.
Definitely.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this has been a very good update, Tim. Fingers crossed now. Fingers crossed that every morning you wake up now and you it must be like Christmas to see what's been happening with the rig.
Gorm, you say every morning when you wake up. That's not right, because I'm not sleeping.
Yeah. That's very good. So I mean, yeah, the next 2 or 3 weeks, the first hole will be essentially carried through, and then it's the new year. So very, very exciting times for Mirasol. Fingers crossed.
It certainly is.
It looks very good.
Extremely exciting, extremely critical. It's very important that something emerges here, and I think we've got a lot of very strong targets in Sobek. So I'm really bullish on it.
And again, just to repeat, obviously all eyes are on you now as well, because if you hit something, we know that. I mean, it's fairly easy to sort of read the situation here. Once you have one big major coming in and developing this area,
creates competition.
And it becomes a lot easier for others to justify as well, also going, because they know there will be infrastructure there, and some of those big critical items will be taken care of. So it's very, very good setup. I think you have a good likelihood of seeing something transpire there if you have modicate success, at least with this first hole.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty unique opportunity. So we're gonna do our best to make it work out for us and everybody and all of our investors.
Okay, 100%, Tim. So next time we'll chat, we'll have the first hole, I think.
Okay, sounds good. So everybody keep their fingers and toes crossed, and we'll monitor the situation going forward.